Amigos, welcome to our second Weight Loss Wednesday. I'm really glad that you're here. I think I mentioned in the first one that these are going to be a little bit different. They are. We're going to be doing things like this because I can't just keep shooting in my boring old office all the boring old time. And Weight Loss Wednesdays are about you guys. These are the ones where you guys send in your questions and I just answer them because, well, it's fun and it's something that you want to know. I'm going to do my best to help out. So, we're just going to dive right in. I'm going to work on getting this hair back to normal. And we'll start with our first question. All right. So, question number one today is why didn't I just realize that I could just make some simple swaps? Okay. So, I think there's a straightforward answer there and there's a more complicated answer there. But the straightforward answer there is you didn't realize that you could lose weight by just making some very simple swaps because you've been conditioned to believe that weight loss is complicated. Now, I've always said that weight loss is hard. You guys know that's weight loss truth number one. Weight loss is hard. But it doesn't have to be complicated. Weight loss is always going to be hard. The difference is whether we overcomplicate it or make it more complicated than it needs to be. It can actually be pretty simple. It can be as simple as switching from regular pop to diet pop. I mean, that was a huge thing for me at the very beginning of my journey. As a lot of you guys know, I was drinking 4 liters of pop a day, every single day, which is a lot. I'm pretty sure it's like 1,500 calories worth of pop. And it's a fair bit of sugar too. So, I mean, there's that. But it was a lot of calories. And I mean, I had 3,500 calories a day to play with in my TDEE. So I theoretically could have kept drinking that much pop. But by just taking that one thing out of my diet, I was able to eliminate 1,500 calories a day, pretty significant, and free up a whole bunch more calories for food. So the simple swap from regular pop to diet pop, and I realized that it's pretty extreme given the amount of it that I was drinking. But let's say that you're just having a latte every day, okay? And I don't know a lot about lattes because I don't drink coffee, but let's say that's your jam. You're having some super fun, super sweet, super awesome latte thing. Okay, cool. If you can find a way to cut some calories out of that by using like one of those syrups that has no sugar added in it, they're a really nice swap and a shortcut there. Doing things like little swaps, little simple swaps, like getting 200 calories worth of the regular syrup out of your latte and putting this other one in, and you repeat that little change over the course of the day with a whole bunch of other things, you're going to end up in a situation where you're cutting the calories that you need to be in a consistent deficit. And a consistent deficit is the way that you lose weight. But as to why you didn't know that before, yeah, it's not your fault. That's just what we've been told. We've been told that, yeah, it's the toxic diet industry. And it's a belief system, right? Because losing weight is super hard. So I think there's something in us that goes, something this hard has to be complicated. And the truth of the matter is that even though it's incredibly hard, it doesn't have to be complicated. Oh, and don't beat yourself up for not realizing that you could do it with simple swaps because, again, we're back to the conditioning, right? That's what you've been led to believe, and that makes all the sense in the world. So don't beat yourself up for that one. Next up is why did it take for my mid-50s for the penny to drop? And I hear that one a lot too, especially from women. And I have a theory. So what I think is going on for a lot of us is that we don't have time. We don't have the time to think about ourselves. We don't have the bandwidth to think about ourselves. We're always too busy worrying about other people, our careers, our families, our parents, our children, our friends. We prioritize everything but ourselves. And then we hit the 50s and the 40s. And we I've heard people, forgive me, refer to it as the fuck it 50s more than once because we realize that our bandwidth is only so big and there's only so much we can take on. So we do finally start to prioritize ourselves. And that can be super painful, right? Because then you start to feel guilty. Like, why the hell didn't I do this before? Why didn't I make myself a priority before now? I would have been able to show up for the people in my life so much more fully if I'd shown up for myself first? Well, in our last little questionnaire, we talked about conditioning, right? And this is another one that's very much like that. We've been conditioned to put everybody before ourselves and think of ourselves last. So we do. And sorry, I did mix some of the conditioner in there. In prioritizing everybody else before we prioritize ourselves, we're doing everybody a disservice, but we're doing ourselves the biggest disservice. It's the hardest for us. And it can feel strange, I think. And yeah, like I said, it can make you feel guilty for not having done this for yourself before. And sometimes I think it makes you feel kind of stupid. Like, why the hell didn't I just do this? Well, it's fine to have those thoughts. I don't think they're unnatural thoughts to have, or, you should be worried about it or beating yourself up about it. But at the same time, I would say definitely don't beat yourself up for it, because it really doesn't matter. That's all over now, and I'm not being glib, but it is. You can't go back and change it unless you have a time machine, in which case there are a lot of people who want to have a conversation with you, but you can't go back and change it. Nobody can. There's nothing you can do about what you did, or in this case, didn't do before. So you're going to have to let it go, because hanging on to that, I'm sorry, I know this isn't the most pleasant thing I can say, but hanging on to that is actually just a form of self-sabotage. You're telling yourself the same story over and over again and making yourself feel bad about it unnecessarily, because at the end of the day, it results in food. Sorry. So it's okay to feel those feelings and have them, but you need to let them go too, so that you can just do what you need to do now. Because the reality is, so long as you're doing what you need to do now, it doesn't matter what you did or didn't do then. It really doesn't, because you're doing it now. So forget about that. Forget about the past. Just let that part of it go. Chalk it up to, I was doing the best I could with what I had, and I didn't have the bandwidth back then to do this stuff for me. But I do now, so I'm going to take care of it. Question number 3 is, why do we live in a society where we ostracize fat people, but at the same time, we are shoving donuts in their faces as soon as they walk in the grocery store? Which is a great question. And it's not really one that I can give a definitive answer on, but I definitely have a theory. And it's not a conspiracy theory, I promise you. It's just common sense. The bigger you are, the more you eat, the more you spend at the grocery store. I don't see why it's in any of the food retailers' best interest to help people stay thin. Sorry. And maybe that's a little dark, but I'm definitely not being glib. And I certainly do believe that. I mean, that's just common sense, basic math. That just is what it is. Oh, I spilled some paint on my paint. I spilt some pink on my pants. Yeah, I don't. It's a huge contradiction. They blame it on us because we don't have the willpower to just walk through the grocery store and not buy anything. Well, we're constantly being bombarded with stuff that sets off all the right feelings in our brains and makes us want to go get it. So, yeah, but no, we can't blame the grocery stores. It sucks. But yeah, that's the society that we live in. This is such a much bigger question. Why do we shame fat people? Why do I keep dropping hair dye on my floor? Because we do. Because that's just the way it's been. And it would be nice if we'd move past that. I think it's a terrible irony of the times that we're living in, that at the same time that we finally have a body positivity movement, we also have what feel like predatory choices at the grocery store. Like, it can feel like the only options that you have aren't good ones. And whether that's an economic thing or your brain chemistry thing, it's not easy right now. The landscape is pretty rough. So unfortunately, despite how ironic it is that, we're trying to help people accept their bigger bodies and to be less judgmental and, make people feel less shame and be kinder. Yeah, the food landscape just seems to be getting worse and worse by the day. So yeah, I agree. It really does suck. Oh, I got more on my pants. Probably why I wore these pants. I can only imagine how triggering watching my very unprofessional amateur ass do this to anybody who happens to be a hairdresser watching this. And I'm very sorry. I really am. True, honestly and truly, because I know that there are people sitting there just going, oh my God, what is she doing? That's awful. Sorry. Sorry. Oh, next question. Sorry. Why can't I be more consistent in my food choices? Yeah, well, that's everybody's question, isn't it? That's a massive relationship with food question that I think honestly is maybe a little more rhetorical than anything else, because we all sit there after having eaten whatever or while we're eating whatever going, oh my God, why am I doing this? Why do I keep making this choice again and again and again? And I wish there was a universal answer to that I could just be like, well, it's this. And the second that you stop doing this, it'll all be fine. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work like that. I think it ties back to the concept that I call the food map, which is the pathway in our brains to food. Essentially, just like shrinks think that we have a love map, I think that we have a food map too that determines the food choices that we're making over the course of our lives, the way that we're talked to about food when we're kids, the way that people interact with us based on the way that we interact with food. Anybody called a super good eater by some people and then be shamed for the amount that you're eating by other people in your life with a kid and be super duper confused about it? No? Just me? Okay. Because I really think that that's a big thing, because we do tend to get very conflicting messages about ourselves and our bodies and about food and about the way that we eat it and the choices that we make and how much of it we eat. All of that happens when we're a kid. And that type of programming carries through to the choices that we make as adults, right? We've all got comfort and cope and even reward foods based out of childhood, right? Things that were childhood favorites or childhood special treats that are even harder to resist now that we're grown up and we're supposed to be the ones in control and making all of these great choices. Sometimes we're not consciously driving the bus when it comes to our food choices. It's, that deeper version of ourselves in our brains that are making those choices subconsciously for us. And I've more than once found myself in a situation where I really wasn't even sure how I ended up eating what I was eating. So, and I know I'm not the only one on that one. And I know I'm not the only one who's been sitting there filled with regret while I keep eating something. That to me was always the craziest part. Like, I'm sitting here beating myself up for eating pizza while I'm eating pizza, but I still can't stop eating the goddamn pizza. Yeah, it's hard. It takes practice. It takes time. It takes changing that whole narrative that you have about yourself while you're eating the pizza and the whole narrative that you have about the pizza. But you do it in small incremental changes. And the first thing you need to do is be aware of the fact that you have a relationship with the pizza, and maybe with the way that you eat the pizza, and a whole bunch of other stuff that I could talk about for several hours. Yeah, that's the biggie. Hairstylists, I'm so sorry. Part of the problem is that I start to get bored, and I know that my sections aren't small enough, and it's just like, and also the way I'm doing it with the conditioner, like, it works its way in. I mean, you guys see my hair in the videos. I always do the pink part, so I do manage to somehow get it right some of the time. But I know that I know I'm doing a really, really unacceptable job. So forgive me. And anybody else, don't copy the way that I'm doing this. You need smaller sections and to pay closer attention, and probably not to record an episode of your podcast while you're trying to dye your hair, because I'm way more focused on the talking than I am on the hair part. But that's okay. Okay, our last question, and I said that I was going to try to answer questions about myself on these two. So the next one that came in And it's just fun, which is kind of why I picked it. And maybe you guys are going to think it's a bit of a cop-out. But if you think it's a bit of a cop-out, send me a better one. Send me a question about something that you would like to know, and I'll answer that too. But this one, which I'm also realizing now, which is kind of why I'm stalling, I should have really thought about before I started talking, because it's not like I can go think about it and come back. I'm committed. I'm in. I have to keep doing what I'm doing. But the question was, if you were on a desert island, what 3 things would I bring? Which is an amazing question and so much fun. And I'd like to hear everybody else's answers to this one too. But my answer, the first thing I would bring is my iPod, because if I'm stuck on a desert island, there bloody well better be music. I'm going to assume that my desert island has hydro, and my iPod comes with a charger. Am I allowed to do that? But no, I would want my iPod. We said things, not people, so don't come for me. Because obviously I would want my husband and my kids there, but she said 3 things, and that number is 4, which already kind of has me in trouble with this one. So I would want my iPod for sure. I would probably want a book, but now I've got to pick a book. Am I allowed to bring like a Kindle that's loaded with a whole bunch of books? Because I would absolutely do that. And can I assume that there's food and water on the island? Because otherwise I'm like, oh, I'd bring matches and this, and because those are the things, but I'm trying to, I guess, give a slightly different kind of answer. Okay, the third thing, and I'm out of hair. We can slap some more dye on there to try and buy me some more time. The third thing, oh, I would want a dog. I would want, and I know that we said no people, but that's not a person. So that's like companionship. I think I would get really lonely. The music and the reading would help with being lonely. And I realized that the dog would be another mouth to feed, but maybe a chicken wouldn't be a very comforting companion. And I just said I don't have to worry about the food. Dog, iPod, books, dog. Those are, I realize this answer is probably going to get me in so much trouble because I'm probably forgetting so many things, but we've established that I have like food that I can cook and eat and clean water, and I can charge my iPod and my e-reader book thing. So yeah, music, books, companionship, because I already have all the people I need on the island. We established that, right? All right. Thank you so much for joining me on our second ever Weight Loss Wednesday. These, I think, are going to be a lot of fun. Thank you to everybody who responded after last week and sent in some questions. I can't wait to get to more of them. And please send them in. And if you want to be featured on one of these and you want to send me an audio snippet of yourself or even a little video of yourself, please do. I would love to include you. Thank you so much, Flamingos. I will see you soon.